Now let's go ahead and talk about the tier lists. What I did is I took our max roll tier lists, which currently judge against like every single build in the game. I plucked out the Necromancer builds, and I just want to talk about how I feel like the builds compare to each other and where they move. And then almost certainly based off of the input of others and how broken other builds are or what we're expecting the output from different builds to be, these might look a little bit different. But for the end game tier list, basically what the breakdown is I think that Infinimus dropped from S tier down to A tier with the changes, and Sever actually bumped up 2 tiers all the way to A tier. Sever should have been in B tier already. This is probably just a little bit of lag of me saying like, hey, we should go update that. But Sever is almost certainly going to bump up into the A tier here. Bone Spirit is going to bump up into B tier, which is pretty rad. And Blight is actually going to bump down because Blight actually cares about Corpse Explosion a lot more than Sever does. And Sever and Blight were always kind of neck and neck because they're effectively the same build with a little bit of different flavor. But now Sever got a bunch of new toys and is just like generally stronger, and Blight got nerfed by its primary skill damage output other than the Blight skill itself. So is Blight now terrible? Absolutely not. And it's probably not as bad as I think it's going to be because Blight actually does a decent amount of damage itself. But that's why it bumps down. Shadow Summoner bumps down to C tier because it got hit by Corpse Explosion extremely badly. And then Pure Summoner drops all the way down to Keck W tier. I just don't think that Summoner builds in comparison to everything else really got anything and only got nerfs and are only now harder to build around. So they're going to be bumped in general, and that's why it's all the way down here in Keck W. For speed farming, not a lot of movement here. One, Infinimus has to drop down in speed farming if it's going to drop down in endgame, since speed farming was Infinimus' strongest suit. And then Sever, again, is just bumping up 1 tier here. Blight is probably actually going to be fine in speed farming, because when we're talking about speed farming, we're talking about easy content for your character to clear very quickly when you're like maximizing damage output. So Blight's probably going to be fine. Bone Spirit is going to bump up a bit here, most notably for the Blood Artisan's Cuirass variant of it, where you're just going to be spamming these little bone splinter, pipe bomb explosions everywhere you go just by eating up some blood orbs and basically infinimisting through everything. Shadow Summoner in C tier actually kind of feels fine here, and Pure Summoner in D tier also kind of feels fine here. They were always just bad at speed farming because you have to wait for your minions to run up. And if we're really talking about like Mendeln, right, when we're talking about a Summoner build, we haven't like gained or lost any abilities to be able to proc that in a proactive way, except for the Shadow Summoner's Corpse Explosion being worse. But you still do have the Corpse Explosion damage to be able to supplement your minions damage here. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a wash for me. I wouldn't be surprised if like Shadow Summoner also dumps down to D tier, but I don't think that they're completely garbage. Then for leveling, not a lot has changed here. Most notably, I think the robots are going to add a lot of resource generation for every single build, because every single season, the powers have been impactful on our ability to level. And since our robots can generate resource for us, I feel like that equally impacts every single build for a leveling build perspective. But most notably, Bone Spear's biggest issue with being able to speed farm is that 1, you don't have like 100% chance to crit, and 2, you really suffer at being able to generate resource. But if we have a robot that generates resource for us and a new resource utility aspect, it means that Bone Spear has actually gained a lot here that a lot of the other builds could typically benefit from, because they all had Corpse Explosion machines to rely on, but they're also gaining additional resource. So I'm not bumping any of them down. I think Bone Spear will be a much better leveling build. We don't have a Bloodlance leveling guide. I don't know why this is on here. I'll go talk with people. Maybe Chronix is going to make one, honestly. The dude's a madman and he loves making guides. But the Summoner build here, the Summoner build is actually like a Sever build that is looking to buff the damage of the summons themselves. And summons have always been pretty good during the leveling process, at least all the way up to like World Tier 3, and then they definitely start to fall off. But at least for that part of it, like 1 to 50, World Tier 3, getting into the end game, they'll probably do fine. But that's how I generally see the builds moving in the tier list. Not too much movement. More builds have come up than have gone down, which I think is good. It just sucks that like my favorite build, the namesake, like the thing that most people know me for, got nerfed seemingly for no reason. But hey, you know what? That's fine. Sometimes you got to take an L so you can take a W later. But yeah, that's it for the balance patch. I think there are some cool things to look forward to. I think it's finally awesome that like Bone Spirit's going to get its day to shine in the spotlight. And I hope that it wildly overperforms everything that I could possibly think of. But as always, let me know down in the comments what you're thinking. Do you think I undervalued anything? Did I overvalue anything else? Remember that you're going to be able to go look at all of my notes, so you can go pick my brain on why I think these changes are what they are, so you don't really have to guess. You don't have to go back and watch the entirety of the video. You can just use this sheet. It'll be linked down below. Let me know what you think. What are you feeling? What builds are you excited to try? What are you upset about? What are we hopefully going to see in a mid-season balance change? Are you looking forward to the gauntlet? I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal, but I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're brand new here and you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out immensely. We're just about to hit 40,000 subscribers, which is insane. I never thought that we'd ever get here in my content creation career. I will be completely honest with you, and it's vastly humbling to figure out that even like more than 10 people want to come hang out and listen to me ramble on about a video game. But thank you all so much. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video as well, that is a huge way of telling YouTube that like, hey, this was good, I want to see more of it. But that's enough of me shilling. Thank you so much for watching this video. I truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in season 3.